There's three tiers of publishing, right?
Mhm.
There's the traditional tier, then there's the indie tier. That's the small press publisher, that's the non traditional publisher, and then you've got self published.
Right.
And Kathleen and I both have done indie publishing, both have a publishing arm to our businesses. And no doubt we will have a Vegan Revolution publishing
You
company.
think? You think?
And
Hey, V-Lynn, how are you?
great, Kathleen Gage, how are you?
It's funny because sometimes I push the button, sometimes you push the button, and all of a sudden we see that red light. It's like, oh, we're on. So it's great to be here. And I'm excited about what we're talking about today because it's really about indie authors, which for people who wonder what an indie author is, that's an independent author. You have indie publishers, you have indie authors, you have indie this, indie that. But we're talking today about indie authors and ways to get your writing out to market and get a book published.
And I
So,
love it because, there's three tiers of publishing, right?
mhm,
There's the traditional tier, then there's the indie tier. That's the small press publisher, that's the non traditional publisher. And then you've got self published.
right.
And Kathleen and I both have done indie publishing, both have a publishing arm to our businesses. And no doubt we will have a Vegan Revolution publishing
You
company.
think? You think?
And from there, it's how the question is always, how do you get published? And
Right.
while getting published is a big deal, there's a even bigger piece to it all that we're going to talk about as well. So make sure you hang around with us today so that you will know all the ins and outs of becoming an author, becoming published, whether you go traditional, which there's some advantages and disadvantages to all three. And we're going to talk about each one of those, but we want you to know how to get published, how to do it effectively, and what you need to know to make sure that your book works for you.
Absolutely. And that's the key right there. Does your book work for you? And as you think through writing a book, for me, I've written 20 books, ebooks and traditionally written type books, the hard copies. And what's interesting is if you go to Amazon, I think you find one book from me. And the reason being is about nearly 2 years ago, my account was hacked. And so I shut it down. Well, little did I know that when I shut it down, everything went into the ozone. Now I could recreate it and I just haven't gotten around to it. So when people say, well, I went to Amazon and I didn't find anything, it's trust me, I've got hard copies here. But that being said, one of the things that I've learned in the time that I've been writing is have a reason for writing. It's like, is it just because you enjoy writing? Is it because it's a part of your business model? Is it because you're going to write a novel? We don't work with novelists. We don't help them promote their books because that's not our wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse in the clients that we work with are nonfiction, vegan, plant-based nutritionist, coaches that are health coaches,
Doctors.
those type of books, entrepreneurs. And the mistake that I made early on is if I got an idea, I went and wrote a book about it. And that's why I got so many books done, which in some ways is not a mistake, but in other ways, now being a little more mature, a lot more mature, you might question that, but I am a lot more mature. But the reality is that now I have a strategy behind my writing. It is very specific to the vegan market, is very specific to business, to visibility, things of that nature. So the way to fast track your writing is to really understand your why. What is your reason for writing the book? Phelan?
That is such a key point and a key perspective. Um, and I think that most writers start off saying, or thinking that they have a noble reason, a noble purpose for writing their books. But then I get surprised by the number of people who think that the book is going to make them money. And
Wait a minute, I've got to laugh a little bit at that one because I
it's like,
okay, guilty as charged. I have been guilty of that.
and unless your name is something like Tony Robbins or Marianne Williamson, that people are going to say, I don't care what the book is or whether it's good or not, I'm going to buy the book anyway, just because it's them. And
Absolutely.
most of us don't have that as an opportunity for ourselves. So we have to look at the other reasons behind writing a book, what you're passionate about, what the messages that you want to get out into the marketplace, how you want to impact the world.